I'm Leon Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. On today's video, we're going to deconstruct the FM9 preset that I just used for a season of shows with Bernie Dieter's club Cabaret. We did a season in New Zealand. It was very different to the usual rock gigs that I do, having a whole bunch of different sounds to cover and a variety of different styles playing in the band was a great challenge and a great experience. And I'm going to show you how I approach that with this particular preset. So I'm playing a PRS CE24 at the moment, plugged straight into the FM9. I took this preset via output 1 left and right straight into the mixing board. I had a small JBL monitor on stage, which did a decent enough job of letting me hear myself, and out the front there was quite a big, loud, meaty PA going on. So we'll start off with the crunch sound, and I used this a lot for the pre-show jam that we did as the band while people were coming into the venue and before the actual show started. I just used the Brit 800 2203 high at the settings you can see here. I set it up for a rock crunch. What better amp than a JCM 800 for a rock crunch? I'm using my free LTTV Mix 7 Cab IR. I did go quite hard on the high cut here. I found this sat really nicely with the other instruments in there. For the reverb, I used the gold plate reverb, time at 1.5 seconds, mix at 20%. A little bit higher than I would use for a ragdoll gig where we're generally going for a really tight high gain sound. Here there was a bit more room to stretch out and fill some space. And then of course some dual detune at the end of the chain just to add some stereo width in there. Let's have a listen to this straight up crunch sound. One thing that I did use in the jam quite a lot was the wah in here that I've got assigned to pedal number 1, and also a rotary block that I assigned to a foot switch on the FM9, just so I could bring that in and out as we were improvising. Now, for about 60% of the show, I was using scene 2 on here, which was the same cab reverb and pitch sound, but I'm using the Brit 800 mod over here, which has an extra gain stage on the stock JCM 800. I love the way this sounded in the mix. Nice and aggressive, and it cut through really, really well. Let's just have a listen to this. Again, you can't really go wrong with a JCM 800 and a greenback IR in a rock context. Having that extra little bit of gain on there ended up being something that I used quite a lot. I thought I might use scene 1 and scene 2 equally throughout the show, but I found I used scene 1, the 2203 high, for the pre-show stuff, which was a little less aggressive, and then scene 2 with the Brit 800 mod. I really like the Brit 800 mod on there. It's a fantastic sounding model. The clean sound that I used on scene 3, again, just stuck with the JCM 800 theme for consistency. There are models of the 2203 and 2204 low inputs on here. So I went with the same basic gain, bass, middle, treble, and presence as the 2203 high, but I did compensate by turning the master volume all the way up. The low input really doesn't have that much signal going on, so you can crank up the power amp. I also ran this for probably the remaining like 30-35% of the show where I didn't need some crazy effects. With some tremolo, I was just using the standard bias trem, which is gorgeous because the harder you play, sort of the less trem you get, so you can play quite expressively and dynamically on there and get some different textures. And then I was using the new Tube Spring model for some spring reverb. Let's hear it without the trem and the spring, then I will bring those in. Super vibey in there, and that worked so well for the tunes in the set where the focus really had to be on the performers and less on the band. Having character sounds like the spring reverb and the bias trem in there with that clean amp just added such an awesome atmosphere. I really enjoyed that. One variation that I had on this particular sound, and rather than assign it to another scene, all I had to do was change the channel in the reverb block. So I mapped a switch to the FM9, which we can see up here, FC Edit. This particular switch, which I set up as an override in my per preset, just toggles between channel A and channel C on the reverb block. So if I hit that, you'll see that channel C is essentially the same gold plate, much more time and much more mix on there. That was for the intro of a particular song that needed quite a bit of ambience. The foot switch that I was using to activate the chunk scene had a hold function on there so that when I held it down, and you can see that over here, it would activate scene 6, which was my lead scene over here. So if we go to scene 6, it's the same amp, but I've added the Valve Screamer VS9, drive all the way down, level all the way up, basically a Tube Screamer style boost with the Aurora delay, basically at the stock settings on here. So this one gave me a glorious big lead sound, and in the output block over here, I set the scene 6 output level to 3 dB. So that's where I got my solo boost from. Let's hear that. And of course, I've got the ability to add the wah on there. I want to show you scene 5. This was my big, lush ambient sound that I needed for a couple of songs. This has a couple of little tricks with the expression pedal assignment on here. You can see I've got a volume block on channel B, and I've assigned the same expression pedal. I've got it mapped to external 1 over here. This, however, is only listening on channel B. The wah assignment is only listening when the wah is on channel A over here. So on my wah scenes, I've got the wah and the volume on channel A. If I move the expression pedal, only the wah is going to be activated. When I have them both set to channel B, only the volume pedal is going to be activated. So let's have a listen to some of the swells and fun things that you can do with this particular sound over here. I do have the multi-tap delay on, same settings as my lead scene with the Aurora delay, but I've gone to channel B over here with the almighty Stratocumulus reverb on here. Mix at 50%, level at 3 dB. This one is gorgeous. Now the foot switch that I assign that to, if I press and hold that, will take me to scene 8, which is the exact same sound, just with the new Nobel's ODR1 model on here. So I used this literally for the end of one song on there where I wanted that big ambient wash, but I just wanted a bit of extra grit. The last scene was just a variation on the very first scene that I showed you. It's essentially the same settings on the Brit 800-2203 high, but in the preamp tab, I've added the CC boost with 15 dB of gain. Again, because there's gapless switching between scenes, channels, and presets on here. When I change the channels between these two, you can see they look identical on the surface, but there's that boost under there. I will get a lovely extra lift from the CC boost. Hopefully that provides some insight in how you can use a single preset on the FM9 to cover a wide range of different sounds and styles. Again, this is just a single preset. If you did need more out of this, you could have multiple presets. You could have a preset per song, and you could use the songs and sets functionality on there. I do like just visualizing this as a single rig, like the way you'd have an analog rig with an amp and a cab and maybe a bunch of pedals and an amp switcher and a pedal switcher or something like that. We can do all of that with a single FM9 on there. And this isn't the turbo edition. This is just the standard FM9 on here. The CPU is running at around 75% on there. The gapless switching really makes this such a powerful performance beast. Let me know any other comments or suggestions in the comments section below. I'll put the preset up and link it in the video description if you would like to check it out. And I will see you all next week for another Tuesday Tone Tip. Thanks so much for watching.